Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, back with the 13th episode of my now inappropriately titled September Social Series. I'm not asking for any more money, so this intro is going to be a lot shorter. You guys already know what I was doing in September. It was raising money for some local social groups that provide social opportunities for people with learning disabilities in my area. I raised £155 in donations, and I pledged to donate 10% of my September winnings to the cause too. And if I didn't make £500, I would top that up to by £50. So my September results were this. In September, I made £351.34 on Sky. So that means I owed £35 to it. So that made 190. I wanted to make it to around 200, so I actually ended up donating £45, not £50 of my own money. So we did manage to raise £200. I've already given £100 of that to the person who organises the social club on a Wednesday. If you want evidence of that, if you go to the Facebook group and scroll down a little bit, there is a post from him and a screenshot of an email he sent me thanking me for the money and just a short explanation of what he was intending to do with it. And I'm going to make the other £100 donation tomorrow night to the ladies who run the club on a Friday. And one of those ladies has joined the group, and I'm hoping, or I'm pretty sure, that she will make a post confirming that the donation's been made once I have made it, so you guys can be sure that all the money you donated has gone exactly where it was intended, and everything has been dealt with appropriately by myself, which is really important to me, to give evidence to you guys that your money has gone where it was intended. So with that out of the way, I owe 3 more videos, including this one. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with the channel the rest of the month. I'm feeling like I'm not going to be making too many videos. Just going to concentrate on playing a lot and trying to get some work in. I'll make videos when I have the time, but it's certainly not going to be as frequent as like the 12 I made in September. Maybe 1 a week, maybe 2 a week, maybe none a week. Depends how I feel. Because I'm not doing like the coaching anymore and have nothing to promote, there's like less need for me to make the YouTube videos. And kind of the only reason I could think of like keeping YouTube going for is if I could make it like a force for good and like do some regular fundraisers for various things. But I can't just keep going to the same few people every few months to put the hand in their pocket. While still raising £150 is really cool and I'm very grateful for it, it did come from around just like maybe 7 people, maybe 8 people, and bearing in mind that the videos get on average like 200 views in a week or whatever, that's like 4% of the people who watched the videos got involved in the fundraising, which means there probably isn't, a great thirst for it, which I understand, I do get. But if I'm not going to be like using it to promote any coaching services and I can't use the channel to raise money for good causes, it does kind of beg the question, from my point of view, what is the purpose of the channel? So yeah, I'm not sure how many videos I'm going to be making in October, but hopefully it'll be a few at least, just for my own personal amusement or whatever. So anyways, the ramble did go on longer than expected. The people who don't like the early ramblings in videos, then tough shit, you've got it. If you want to hit the thumbs down, then you go for it. If that really helps you vent, then you fucking vent away like a good one. Right, so on with the hands. First hand here, we have a player who I've got him tagged as a regular, but he's not. He doesn't play that often. He sometimes plays a little bit higher. I'm not sure if he plays elsewhere too and just comes back to Sky from time to time. I don't know, but he's definitely a regular of some description. He doesn't play like wildly or anything like that. He has the auto reload on, etc. Is he a good regular? Is he a bad regular? Couldn't tell you. He might be good, and I just haven't played with him enough to know that yet, or he just might not be that good. I don't know. Anyways, he min races under the gun. We 3-bet with the 2 kings. He calls, and we get just about the best what we could hope for. Because I think he's a regular, I go with a significantly downsized bet here, just like 1/4 pot, quarter pot. Hoping once in a blue moon he might raise. Hoping he might call and improve on the turn a little bit, where we can make some slightly larger bets. He does call. Turn is what should be a pretty safe card. Very much doubt he has any like 7-4, 4 deuce in his range. So as far as I'm concerned, we still have the nuts here. But I think we can start making some slightly larger bets. I mean, you're hoping you've got like a set over set situation here, or somehow he's got the case king, or he's got a hand like pocket jacks, etc., that might call at least one more bet. Checks. I bet 350. He calls. River is a jack. He checks. And I think I make a mistake here. I didn't like the diamond. I didn't feel I was going to get caught by too many worse hands here. Now the jacks come. I thought if he does have hands like pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket nines, he's probably not going to call too many bets here. Of course, I mentioned pocket jacks that you could have on the last street. That's obviously never going to fold. Didn't think he could have too many flushes here. I think if he has like a decent flush draw, maybe he check raises the flop versus the small bet size. So I wasn't too. I was a little bit concerned the flushes got there, but I wasn't too concerned. And I think I made a really shit check back here, and I was annoyed with myself as soon as I for feeling so weak. I just felt like most of the hands they could call. The only hands I thought could call were either pocket jacks, which obviously we crush, a few combinations of that, and then maybe quite a few combinations of like 10-9 suited, 8-7 suited, all those types of things like I don't know, ace-x suited, etc. And I thought, well, he's not going to fold a set, but I think if he has like a set of sixes, threes, or fives, which he can have all of them given our flop sizing, he probably would have raised the turn with the set. So I didn't think he had a set there. I thought the only set he could possibly have would be pocket jacks. And then the rest of the hands that could call were going to be lots of flushes. I didn't think he could call with his middle pair, so I made like a really weak check back. I wasn't happy with it. It turns out he did like have the ace to of diamonds, so it turned out well, the check back. But I think it isn't a good check back. I think we should definitely be making some kind of bet there. What size I don't know. I don't think I'd enjoy check folding very much on that board, so I'd probably just go really big and just hope he had like, I don't know, king jack suited or something maybe. I don't know, but I didn't like the check back, but it turned out well for us that hand. But doesn't mean to say it was good. This hand here we called racing a small blind with 10 jack offsuit, which isn't something I would typically do, but we had two pretty weak players. This guy who like min raised, he was playing lots of pots and not playing them very well. I just wanted to get involved in pots with him. We flop the open ender and it checks through. Continue checking on the turn, and then he bets 60. And once this guy gets out of the way, I wasn't giving this bet of 60 pence much credit. I mean, it's checked through once on the flop, and on the turn he's like wanting to bet like less than half pot on this board. Didn't feel like he was too strong to me. We could have just called, I guess, given we're getting like a reasonable price to draw, but I'm not sure I like check calling with open and straight draws on like three flushing boards. If we do hit our hand, do we bend bet out? Do we go for a check and hope he bluffs again? But if he is going to bluff, if he's going to use that sizing, there's not much value in it. I just didn't think he was very strong, so I decided to go with a check raise. And he literally snap called the check raise, and the deuce came on the river. And when people like snap call versus raises, I associate that a little bit with like draws and like relatively weak made hands. Do I think this player like checks back a king on the flop, bets 60 on the turn, and just that's like snap calls? No. So I didn't give him a king. He could maybe have like a queen or a 7 that he was being stubborn with. I mean, the deuce shouldn't change very much unless he's betting a deuce on the turn. If he's betting a deuce on the turn, then my river play of doing this is going to be horrendous. Well, I just didn't think he was very strong. I didn't think that the deuce changed much, and I thought this maybe gets someone to fold like a 7 once in a while, occasionally a queen, probably not too often with versus a bad player that they bet call a queen turn and fold this river. But I thought like a lot of flushes that I was like, well, there can't be that many flush draws. I was high carded, but he's like the naked ace of clubs. He could maybe have that a little bit, and maybe even 10 jack's the best hand if he's got some like weaker draws in his range. But we can't check call with it if we check. So I just elected to go ahead and continue bluffing, which is not something I typically do in these situations against this type of player. But it felt like it was the only way I could win the pot, and that isn't a reason to bet. But I think it's the only way I can win the pot, and I think there's a good chance I can get a fold from my opponent, who I think's got a relatively weak hand. It's like kind of worthwhile trying to do it. If nothing else, um, it's good advertisement, isn't it, for a player that I typically not. This is not something I do very often. So if a fishy player does catch me doing it, then that's going to stick with him a while, and hopefully it will make it much easier to get paid on my value bets. So there is if we do get called, there's a tiny upside, but obviously we're hoping for the fold, and that's what we got. So we were pretty happy with that. So the next time we have a fishy player who's min raised under the gun, we put the 3-bet in. Everyone decides that their full button's broke and clicks the call button, and we get this delightful flop in terms of we know we got the nuts, we know everyone's drawing virtually dead, apart from some backdoor straight flush draws. It's how do we get paid now? I mean, we're not going to lose the hand, but we're probably not going to win much. It's really hard to win a lot with quads because it's just very hard for someone to have anything. I guess in a multi-way pot, it's going to be easy to get some value because someone might have caught a piece with the 9, or if we check back and it turns like a Broadway card, someone might turn a piece that decides to call a couple of smallish bets or what have you. So obviously, naturally, the flop just checks through. I don't see any reason to bet. Turn comes a 6, and this player here who'd been very spewy and aggressive, he leads out for £3.60. Again, there's no reason to raise whatsoever. And the river he checks, and I elected to go with the smallish bet, just hoping he's got a 9 he was probing the turn with, or a 6 he's probing the turn with. We can look like we've got a few draws that have missed or what have you. So I bet smallish just to let him call with his 9x and his 6x, I guess. Obviously, you can't call with misflush draws or anything like that, so we go small, just hoping he's got something he stubbornly wants to call with. He did call. It's not going to show his hand, but I can tell you now, he had, I think it was the Jack 4 of diamonds, so he checked the flop. Maybe he would even check raise the flop. He was spewy enough, so maybe we lost some value versus this player. Then he led the turn with his flush draw, and then check called when he rivered what he probably assumed was showdown value. And yeah, that was a nice extra bit of value we got in a spot where, even though we have the best hand, it's usually quite hard to get value. So I enjoyed that one. Same player again. Not too long later, I limp here because he was being very aggressive in lots of spots, and I just thought it's going to be a spot where I can get a limp raising with a very high frequency, and have him call. So I went with the limp raise. He duly obliged, and we got this flop, and it's gone too quick. But I elected just to overbet jam here. This was the type of player, if he had any piece, if he had a draw, he wasn't folding. If he had a pair, he wasn't folding. I didn't want to bet this flop a normal size and have a 3, a 7, a diamond, a deuce, an 8. Lots and lots of cards that can come off of that can definitely help improve his hand, but also can scare him if he does have a weakish made hand. So I went with a jam here, hoping to make it look bluffy, hoping he had some kind of piece, either a pocket pair himself, a pair now on the flop, or some kind of draw. Unfortunately for us, he did have enough of a piece to call. He just had the ace 6 of clubs, and we put it to bed on the turn. So yeah, it's all good. It's a video of me just running really well against really bad players up to now. We playing them heads up now. I'd started a new table. He joined. He got felted on the last table. I opened a new table. He joined pretty much straight away. So happy to have him at my table again. We open the 7-9 from the button. We hopefully see bet our gut shot. We do. We turn the straight, which is delightful. He just check calls again. And then on the river, we go for more value. and he pops a raise in. And I despise being check raised on the river. It's almost always something remarkably nutted, and usually I wouldn't have much of a problem like folding this non-nut straight um, on this river. But against this dude who could just he could just have lots of Jack X that maybe he would play this way. Um, I couldn't find the fold. Couldn't bring myself to fold it, so it's too likely you can have trips as well. Obviously, I think it's value. I don't think it's hardly ever a bluff. But because we beat some of his value range, um, I couldn't fold. We didn't beat this part of his range because he had the second nut flush, and we had to pay the dude off. But that's fair enough. Um, I don't mind when those guys get to win one back now and again because it's important that they enjoy their poker experience, and for them to do that, they need to win some big pots from time to time. So, whatever. Here we have a player limping. We isolate on the button with two kings. Get a really good flop. He leads out. I elected to go with the small raise here. This guy had been like leading out quite a lot, and when I've been watching the hands carefully at showdown, he'd been leading out with like made hands. He'd been like checking and like just giving up a lot. But when he led, the hands that got to showdown that I managed to check, he usually had like either a piece of the board or something like that. So I was very happy to raise here, thinking if he has any kind of pair, he's got a full house, Zebo theorem, who folds a full house, etc., etc. So I just went with the small raise, no need to pick big here. The only card we don't want to see on the turn is an ace, but any hand that like kind of leads this flop and calls it based on my read on him. If he leads and calls, I don't think he's have much ace X in his range. I think he's going to have a lot of pocket pairs. Be very pocket pair heavy, not a lot of ace X. So I was even an ace wouldn't have bothered me. It would have bothered me in terms of like it would significantly reduce our ability to get value, but it wouldn't have bothered me in terms of thinking, oh shit, he's just got there. So we made a small raise, and he called. No reason to not bet that turn, and no reason to not jam this river. It was a very straightforward hand. He had pocket sevens, but I do think that's. I mean, it is a super straightforward hand, but lots of players would just call there on the flop with their pocket sevens, with their pocket kings, just trying to keep their opponents like bluffs in, keep their weaker value hands in, etc. I think this is like a testament to going back and checking hand histories you're not involved in to see how people see what people have in their ranges when they take like unusual lines. Um, had I not known this dude was like donking made hands and checking other stuff, then maybe I wouldn't have raised here. Maybe I would have told the standard line of just call, maybe try and raise the river, and we wouldn't have won a full stack. It's not a particularly interesting hand. It's just some weakish player who hasn't been able to fold a full house, and I've got like a full stack value for it. But had I not got the raising on the flop, it might have been hard to get stacks in by the river. And I was really quite pleased that this was like a little reward for taking the time to pay attention to how people were playing the ranges, how players I wasn't used to, wasn't familiar with, were playing the ranges, and quickly making some subtle adjustments to how I would typically play my hand in this range, in this way, in this spot, to get the maximum value. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that, even though it's a relatively straightforward hand. This is definitely going to be the most interesting hand of the video. We again isolate this player who limped. This dude, he'd min 3-bet earlier, and he'd min 3-bet pocket sevens, I think it was, from the small blind in a very similar spot. So I know his min 3-bet didn't have to be like super premium good stuff. I was considering 4-betting with the ace 10, just to like put some pressure on them types of hands, maybe get them to fold them. Sometimes I'll play a big pot out of position with some marginal hands. But he was bad enough where again I said, well, maybe we can just call and like use our post flop advantage, our post flop positional advantage, and our hopeful skill advantage to outplay him in some spots. And we are quite deep stacked too, which means that if we do, 4-bet, he 5-bets, then it's in a weird spot. If we 4-bet and he calls and we hit an ace and the pot starts getting big, it's like the dangers of like losing an extra big pot because of the stack depth all played into my feelings. So we just went with the call in the end. And this hand fucks up with the replayer here. So I'm going to try and do like the best I can because the visuals aren't going to be good on this hand because it doesn't go in properly. But he led out with like a really big bet here. Um, Last time when he had the pocket sevens and he min three bet, I think his C bet wasn't full pot. This one was full pot, which I'm not sure if it's significant or not. But we know what he can't have is he can't have the ace of clubs. He can't have like ace king with the ace of clubs. He can't have like lots of hands he can't have. He can have like a lot of like decent pairs with clubs here, like pocket tens of the club. Maybe like he's got like king jack with the king of clubs. Maybe he's got pocket kings, pocket queens with the king or queen of clubs. Um, but I decided that because I know he couldn't have the nuts, I wanted to try and take control of the pot. So I made a raise, and he literally did min three bet, or very close to min three bet, and at this point, I was like, fuck, what's going on here? It means harder to flop to flush, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he's min three bets 10-9 suited and stuff like that too. Yeah, nice beauty, yeah, I can't lie. Not particularly proud of this hand because I mean this pot should have been so much smaller. This pot's now fucking huge. I've got like a lot of equity in a. I mean, if it just say for example he does have like pocket queens, pocket kings, or even pocket jacks, against pocket kings or pocket queens, we've got like whatever we've got. I don't know, 40% equity. Against a set of jacks, we've got maybe 30% equity. We've got a pot where we've got a lot of equity, and it's fucking huge because I decided to be a dick and raise a flop when just calling would have been fine. So I decided, fuck it, and I raised again. And this we had the sizing goes wrong. I didn't raise to £20.40. If we go back a bit, because I think we end up having to put like our last seven in. So I think I raised this to actually £20, or £20 more. I think I left myself with like £7 something, and I should just have gone all in. I was fucking around and just I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. He goes all in. We have like £7.40 more to call. So this isn't right. This we're all in. We haven't got this left. The pot's like 76 quid at 20 nil at this point, and I'm all in against an overpair with just a draw. It's possibly like the worst played hand of the month or one of. So I really wasn't happy with the situation. Fortunately, we got bailed out and we dragged down a really, really nice pot. And this flirt took it like a champ. He'd not 1 ounce of abuse in the chat box. I would have been raging if that had happened to me in like such a almost 400 big blind pot. Yeah, not proud of that one, but very relieved with the result. Here we open the Jack Queen on the button, open for 6 at 3x due to the weaker player in the blind. We flop Gin, he check min raises, we just call. We turn the straight, he bets 370, we just call. We live with the flush, he checks. So like what we got to think about here is like what does he have that wants to like check min raise the flop, bet the turn, and then doesn't want to bet this river. I mean, it's just almost impossible for him to have a flush. I don't think a flush ever takes this line, and the fact that we've got some like key blockers to his flushes. I don't think he has a flush. Do I think he has like a jack, a decent amount? If he does, like what jack does he have? Does he check min raise a flop with king jack? Seems unlikely. Ace jack or jack 9 would definitely play this way, I think. And I was just kind of hoping, and let's just hope he's got a jack of some description. You can have jack 9 for sure, king jack probably, or possibly, ace jack definitely. So I elected just to go with the full jam, thinking he would never fold a straight, and he actually flopped the nut straight, and we sucked out on him. So it's another suck out from us against a weaker player. But I'm not complaining because let's face it, when you play on Sky, and for those who do play on Sky, you'll see lots of times where you don't get the rub with the green, and bad players will take bad hands against you and turn them into winners, and you just got to take it like a man and just accept that's part of the game. You need these bad players to have these like interesting results against you. So when you suck out on one of those on like someone who thinks a weaker player, don't feel bad about it. Just again, it's just part of the game, you know. Um, and I didn't feel bad. I did feel bad with myself for the ace-10 hand. I was annoyed with myself for like getting in such a ridiculous spot, like deep stacked, against a player where I had position and I could have controlled the pot a lot better. But I'm not going to complain when we just get in a cooler situation versus the fish and I have to suck out on him. That's just the way it goes. So it's going to be the last hand of the video, I believe. We min raise the button with the Queen 7 of clubs. A pretty bad, aggressive, weak player calls. We flop top pair. We go with the bet. He calls. We turn the flush draw. We bet. He goes with the raise. And he was pretty bad aggressive. I don't think my Queen 7 is going to be good dead often here, and the fact we have the flush draw is going to reduce that his flush draw combos or his turn to flush draw. But I don't think he was the player that maybe has a flush draw too often and plays it this way anyway. I think if he did have a flush draw, maybe he would just lead with it on the turn rather than check raise with it. I don't think he was like that type of player who would think that way. I think he would just turn equity and think, boom, let's bet. That's what I thought at the time anyway. I mean, I guess he can have some queen jacks, some pocket sixes, pocket deuces, etc. I kind of thought he was like pretty strong here. Not nutted strong, but I kind of thought, yeah, he's probably raising for value. We probably can't get it in here. If I'd re-raised with my pair and flush draw, I don't think we're going to get it in against a worse hand. But clearly we're getting way too good odds to fold here with our pair and flush draw. We river the second nuts, he goes all in. We have the most trivial call ever. And just hope he doesn't have like the king high flush draw somehow. And he just had the deuce 6. So again, he could probably consider himself slightly unlucky in that he turned. I mean, he probably in his head he can't check fold the flop, and maybe he shouldn't. I mean, he shouldn't defend the 6 deuce pre. But if you are defending the 6 deuce pre, you probably can't fold it for one small c bet. And then he turned the deuce. I like his check raise. If he's going to defend the 6 deuce, I like it. I think it maybe should have been a little bit bigger because my range, or most people's range, with double barreling here is going to include either like quite a lot of strongish hands, the good top pairs, and draws. So I think he probably could have made his turn raise bigger. Don't think it would have made a difference to the result. And then obviously his jam on the river, I don't think it's at all good because now lots of like my one pair hands have now counterfeited him with 2 pairs. If I did have a flush draw, I've got there. If I had like a king 10, I've got there. So his river jam's clearly not good. But yeah, we were happy to win a big pot from a weak player, which has kind of been the theme of the video, hasn't it? You know, there's barely been any pots with regulars. I haven't played too many pots with regulars. I've had a couple of like boring coolers against them. That I just decided not to put in the video. A couple have won, a couple have lost, like aces versus ace king, etc. And that's kind of why I play in the games I do, and like games like the way I do, try and get in these games with bad players because I've no interest in battling regulars that much. Because when the big pots come in, no one's really making a huge mistake. It's usually just going to be like big hand versus big hand, cooler situation, and it's quite dull. So yeah, I have 2 more videos. I'll try and get them banged out pretty quickly, to be fair, just so I can put it to bed. But I'll definitely make at least 2 more videos in the next week or so to honour my commitment to the 15 videos I promised for September, although albeit it was a bit late. And we'll see where we go from there. But take care, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend, and bye-bye for now.